When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comms YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be talking about Mance Rayder in the Winds of Winter. And so I wanted to talk about this video because I did a video on my ranking series, and then we talked about Mance Rayder's life. We went through him as a character, and it made me really interested to talk about him going forward in Winds of Winter. I've never made a video on Mance going into the next book, and so I thought this would be a good time to do so. Now, what I will say, this is one of those characters that I think the reason that I kind of strayed away from him for a while was I really don't have a concrete belief on where Mance Rayder's going in the future. He's a character that I think is similar to like how I thought about Rickon at the beginning, where he just has so many different ways you can go, and based upon where we leave the character, there's not a lot to go on. And even predicting the character, there's two different routes that we're going to really explore with the character of Mance. And so I also wanted to say thank you for everyone that put in questions for this topic. We had a lot of questions, which I was really surprised about, given that Mance Rayder, he's not the most popular character in the world, but I definitely got a ton of questions for this video. So thank you guys for participating. And also I wanted to say a big thank you to my Patreons and members. I appreciate you guys for supporting me. If you did want to join those, you get videos early, and I'm going to be doing some exclusive content moving forward. So I hope you guys all enjoy that. And let's get into the video. So I wanted to start the video with actually a quote. Given that one of the comments actually was a quote, I wanted to start out with that. So Vesper Royal gives this quote from the book. "The freedom to make my own mistakes was all I ever wanted, Mance Rayder." Yeah, big rip to Mance. But yeah, this really kind of shows us what the character is, right? He wants freedom. He wants his own free will, not to be limited by the society of Westeros or the Night's Watch. He wanted to be his own person, and I think that's what a lot of people strive to do. So that sets a good foundation of where we're going with the character of Mance in this, and how we're going to try to predict him as a character. Gingy says, "What if he won the battle? What was his plan?" So I think this is a difficult one to predict if you're Mance, because if he wins the battle for the Wall, he still has to deal with Eastwatch and also Shadow Tower. So he's going to have to deal with those in turn. Now, maybe he's going to try to get those to surrender, and I think that's very possible. I think Mance's main goal was to get just south of the Wall, carve out of land for his people, and to hopefully defend against the threat of the others coming south. That's what I believe his plan was. I don't think his plan was to conquer Westeros or anything like that. I think he would have negotiated a peace, hopefully with the North. But the question would have been, once he did that, and the Boltons or the Wardens of the North, he would have ran into trouble. So I don't think whatever Mance's plans were at this time, they would have gone awry. He would have had to change them. But I think his initial plan was just simply to have freedom for his people and to be safe from the threat of the others. Toby asks, why did Melisandre not burn him for his king's blood? So I think Mel is starting to realize, or if she hasn't already realized, is that it's not king's blood that really it's not king's blood that really matters. It's really blood that matters. And the burning of the fake Mance proves that, right? Like, the power that they're looking for is just blood in general. These blood sacrifices, we see this with Dany and the dragons coming back. A part of that was because of blood magic. And so she realizes that Mance has much more usefulness to them alive than dead. Right, Mance is someone that knows the North pretty well. He's made a trip to Winterfell. He is someone that can serve Mel's purposes really well. He has a lot of guile. He is someone that has shown to be a good fighter. He is someone that has more of a purpose. He can also be someone that can be helped to unite the Wildlings if it ever comes to that point. And I think Melisandre realizes that Mance has a greater purpose. Maybe she's seen him in the flames doing certain actions that are going to be important. Or maybe she's just using him to get what she believed was Arya. It's not really Arya, it's just fake Arya. It's Jane Poole. And we also know this wasn't even fake Arya or Jane Poole either. It was Alice Karstark. So she gets a lot wrong there, but you get what the point I'm trying to say. But that would be my answer to that question. Larissa asks, did he write the pink letter? The letter sure had a lot about him in it. So I've kind of gone back and forth, because I think when I first got into this community and when I first did YouTube, I think I would have been way more like 90% sure that it was Ramsay that wrote the letter. And I think as time has gone on, I think as I've heard more people argue for Mance being the author to the letter, I think it's become more like a 60-40. I think the only two options, the people that wrote the pink letter, are Mance and Ramsay. I think they're the only two that really make sense to me. And so I want to talk about why Mance may have done it or why he maybe didn't do it. So I think Mance, if we're just looking at everything that's in this letter, he would have had knowledge of how to write all of that, right? He would have known how Ramsay talks. He's been in Ramsay's presence quite a lot. He knows what would have motivated someone like Mance. He would have the ability to write in that language. And a lot of the language used within the letter kind of seems to represent some Wildling talk. How, again, Mance would have referenced the Night's Watch as the crows and all that. That's very Wildling talk. Maybe Ramsay also could have picked that up, but there does seem to be some hints here that this could be Mance instead. We've seen that Mance could be someone that's very clever. He has this lore of being someone that has been able to unite all of these different people. That would include manipulating people or getting people to come to his side. Now, why would Mance do it? Does Mance have the motivation to do it as well? Yes, Mance is in a position where he's kind of trapped in Winterfell. He wants the Wildlings to come south to kind of help rescue him, but also could be used to, again, free the Wildlings from the north, right? The Boltons are the main obstacle the Wildlings are going to face in their terms of trying to gain any type of freedom. And so their downfall is going to be imperative. So again, Mance has every reason to write this letter. And the other thing that's great about it is a lot of the things that are said in this letter that we don't think are true. There are definitely things in the pink letter that are true or false. There are things that we can't verify. For instance, Stannis' death. We know that in terms of the story, as of right now, Stannis is not dead and actually looks like he's going to win. But could there be something in here where Stannis fakes his death? And so when this letter is actually written, it seems like that is the case. Or maybe this letter is being written because it seems like Stannis is going to lose, so this is a preemptive letter. There's a lot of things we just don't know about the pink letter, and it's hard to understand because we haven't been given a lot of the full picture yet. So I think in every regard, it makes sense for Mance's motivations and also what is actually in the contents of the letter. Where I struggle with the letter, though, is how would Mance have gotten the letter to the wall? And two, at what point does Mance write the letter and actually have it sent? Because you have to think, as soon as Theon escapes with all of these women, or all the women that were with Mance, or Bael the Bard that he is, or Abel the Bard that he's playing the role of, he is going to be under extreme suspicion, probably put in jail and all of that in prison. So, with that knowledge, we know when this letter was written that the idea that Theon and Jane Poole have already escaped. We know that there's at least been some sort of conflict with Stannis this time. Mance was found out. Now, if Mance is writing this, he can kind of just make that part up. So the question I have here is, did Mance somehow get this letter off in between the time of Jane Poole's escape and maybe his own capture? Or maybe he's still hiding out? Possible. Or did he actually just not write it and Ramsay's writing this in terms of all the things that's going on, right? I find it interesting because Mance would have had to accomplish a lot. He has to get the Bolton seal. He then also has to get a raven to carry the message. Again, that would imply he has to get up to the rookery at Winterfell, or get a maester to write it for him or send it for him. There's a lot, I think, that has to be accomplished for us to believe Mance actually got it to the wall. That's where I think some of my reservations are on the timing of the letter and its writing, and also in terms of the execution. How did Mance execute all of this while being a very high target and Winterfell being on high alert for him? So I would say there is a solid chance that he did write it, but I will be very interested to see how how George kind of tells us how he did that. Leo, that was also your question. Is he the pink letter author? I will lean towards no on that, but I do think it's very possible. Ryan Williams says, if Mance did not write the letter and and is in fact a hostage right now, how long do you think he lives? Is he of any use to House Bolton? So I'm going to answer your last question first, because I think it's really important to understand with Mance. Is he of any use to House Bolton? Yes. Now, I will say one thing. He would be someone very valuable to kill. If we look at the same reason as to why Stannis wants to take Deepwood Moss and execute, Theon/Asha, it's because that's a big signal to the north saying, oh yeah, we're the ones taking care of these Greyjoys that came and invaded your homeland. The same can be said of Mance Rayder, right? He is someone that is leading the Wildlings. The Wildlings have been raiding the north for generations and generations. It's the same idea, right? Where it shows the Boltons having this power of taking out all of these people that are enemies of the north. So that is a use. Other uses for him is that Mance Rayder could be a valuable piece in showing that also Stannis is someone that lied to the north. He said that he killed Mance for his crimes, but here he is right here. That means Stannis is a sympathizer with the Wildlings. That's all the things, like, there's a lot that could be implied with Mance being alive that the Boltons could use against Stannis, and that's a big part of it. But other things, again, you could use Mance to try and threaten/blackmail the Wildlings to either stay in place or go back south of the wall. There are things that Mance has that could be very valuable. So there's things that Mance knows that could be very valuable. Mance knows a lot about the inner workings of the Wildlings that Roose Bolton could use. He knows a lot about Jon Snow and of the White Night's Watch as a whole. He knows a decent amount about the North as well. So again, there's a lot of information that Mance could have that the Boltons would want, whether they get that out by torturing or whatnot. How long do you think he lives? See, this is a tricky question, and this is where, like, I think once we get past the Battle of Ice stuff, I don't know if he even lives, because I don't think if the Boltons capture him, I think they could get all this information out of him, but then after that, there's no reason to keep him alive. I think Mance Rayder, similar to the way we saw Rickon in the Battle of the Bastards in the show, Mance Rayder could be someone that is used as a death to kickstart that war, showing that the Boltons mean business. They kill their enemies, unlike Stannis. That could be something we see. Now, if we see more deception, if we see that instead of them killing Mance, Stannis is defeated and it seems like all that's going on, and then Stannis ends up taking the castle by guile, sneaking into Winterfell, his men are in there, they take the castle that way, there's a chance Mance could live. But then here's the other problem. If he is captured, like you're suggesting, if he is a hostage, Stannis will then find Mance. And we know how Stannis is going to deal with Mance Rayder, right? It's Mel that keeps Mance alive, not Stannis. So Stannis, I think, would then execute Mance once again. I don't think Mance would be kept alive at this time. Mel is probably going to lose all of her sway. She's also not going to be involved with this because Mel will probably burn Shireen. And so I think Mance is in a situation in which if he doesn't escape, he's doomed to die. Because even if someone like Jon finds Mance, Jon, I think, is still going to put Mance in the situation where he's going to have to become part of the Night's Watch once again, or he's probably going to be killed. So you're in a really tough situation in terms of if you want Mance to live. Treasure Freak asks, do you think Mance as Abel was captured and flayed after Theon's escape? If not, how do you think Mance will avoid detection in Winterfell? I do think that Mance was captured. I think it's incredibly difficult to A, get out of Winterfell, and 2, to even stay hidden for that long. Could Mance learn from what the Starks did, Bran and Rickon, where he hides in the crypts? Very possible, right? Again, Mance is going to know a bit about that story. And so at this time, what would Mance do, right? He could just hide out, but I don't think that makes sense given the pink letter. Given what we hear from that, if it is Mance who wrote it, I think he is realizing he's probably going to be captured, or at least he's not going to be able to stay hidden forever. And so he's writing that as a preemptive thing, right? That's how dire the situation is. If Ramsay is writing it, I think Ramsay has him captured and is actively torturing him for information. And so either way, I think Mance will be captured and flayed. Bowell asks, did Mance kill Roose Bolton? I think that is why he was not present when Theon rescued Jane. I don't think Mance killed Roose Bolton, no. I could see why he would do it, though, because I think Mance realizes that Roose Bolton is the real danger in terms of the Boltons. Ramsay is someone that's much more impulsive. He is someone that's, you know, he's clever in terms of getting things done, but he's not as smart as Roose. He's not as calculated and cold as Roose. Roose is the real power behind the Boltons. Roose is what's kind of holding together that alliance. Most people don't like Ramsay. So if Roose was to die, that would be a huge blow to the Bolton campaign in the north and keeping their power. And so I do think that it could be possible that Mance does do this or tries to figure out a way to do this, but I don't know if he will. I think it's more likely that Ramsay would kill Roose Bolton, but yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I just don't think it's actually going to happen. Decode believes that Melisandre is the most likely culprit for the pink letter. I disagree quite heavily on that idea. How would Melisandre know a lot of the information in the pink letter, the wording, the way Ramsay talks? Maybe she saw some of this through the fire. I don't know. I don't really believe it too much. But maybe it's possible, I guess. I just don't really like that idea. Is he alive or not? I think at this time he's alive. I think Mance will be alive. I think if Mance is to die, we'll see it on screen. And by that, I mean the Boltons may be killing him before a battle or something of that nature to kind of send a message to the north. B.O. Clark says, will Mance and Jon Snow speak again? Assuming he was involved with the pink letter and Jon gets a resurrection, what might that conversation be like? I think I don't know. I'm very conflicted about this answer because the timing has to add up to that Mance survives long enough for Jon to make it to Winterfell. And given the fact that I believe Stannis will be the one that ends up taking Winterfell through guile and through means that are going to be very secretive and clever instead of a straight on fight or siege, I think Mance is going to be in a position where he's basically about to be executed again, and that's maybe how Jon speaks to him. I think that conversation would be very interesting given, you know, Mance and Jon. Think about the way things ended. Jon put Mance out of his misery, or that's what Mance would have seen, right? The fake Mance was put out of his misery by Jon. It shows that Jon had a lot of respect for Mance and didn't want him to be burned like that. So I think it would have been an interesting conversation about the two, but a lot of that would be kind of an interesting moment. I don't know what else they would probably talk about, but it would be interesting. If Mance also knows about Rickon and Bran still being alive, that could be something he could also tell to Jon as well. Matthew H asks, does Mance go back to the wall to rally the wildlings to head to Winterfell? No, it's too late. I don't think Mance will be that character. I think Mance has no way of getting back to the wall. I think if the wildlings are going to head south, it's going to be because of Tormund and Jon. It's not going to be because of Mance Rayder or any of those. They might be prompted because of the letter, because of what's in this letter and the respect of Mance and knowing that he's alive. That could be a reason, right, that helps motivate them to go south, but I think they'll be under the command of Tormund and Jon. Very similar to the show. I think that makes a lot of sense. In the way the reasoning was as well in the show makes a lot of sense. But I don't think Mance will be that person. I think Mance is going to be in a very dire situation. Ian Whitford asks, I'd love to see how Ned would treat with Mance, especially if members of the Watch like Aemon and Jeor could help to legitimize the supernatural motivations Mance has. Ned is highly respected by all the North, but is it a high enough influence to sway the deep-set bias Northerners have, assuming Ned himself is swayed? I think Ned would struggle to treat with Mance, because think about how rigid Ned is in the rules and how you must follow oaths and all these things. Mance didn't do that, right? He left the wall. Now, I think Ned would understand Mance's rationale. I think he would sympathize with his cause, and I think he would try to see that, right? I think he would be someone that would be willing to listen to Mance and maybe even try to do something like Ned, trying to unite the others and Mance. But the problem would be, is there proof that Ned can believe this, right? Will there be that proof, right? You really have to depend. When does Ned and Mance meet? If it's after we have this attack on Jeor Mormont by the others, by Other and Jaffer Flowers, then Ned would believe it, because he would have verifiable evidence from this hand, his bastard Jon Snow, or, well, I guess his alleged bastard Jon Snow, telling him that this happened. Jeor Mormont, a highly respected and someone that is very honorable and truthful, also telling him that this happened, and Aemond as well backing that up. I do think Ned would believe it. That's not to say, though, that Ned wouldn't allow Mance to just run free. Mance would be killed. Ned would have him get his head taken off. He still broke a vow. And so that's how I think it'd be interesting to deal with that. So we have two questions or statements about Arthur Dayne being Mance. And so I'll have them both up on screen, and I'm going to kind of talk about this theory rather quickly because this is a whole video that I could possibly do, but is Mance really Arthur Dayne? And to me, no. I think there isn't a lot of evidence to back this up, really. I think where this theory comes from is they would relatively be around the same age in Arthur Dayne and Mance Rayder. They are both pretty good sword fighters. I think this theory really got popularized because of A Dance with Dragons. There's the situation in which Mance is able to beat Jon Snow in a sword fight, and so people believe, oh, he's Arthur Dayne. I think people seem to forget how good of a fighter Jon is. Jon Snow is not like this great fighter in the book. He's a very competent fighter. He's definitely above average, right? He's better than the average soldier, of course, but he's not like a top swordsman. He's not a Game of Thrones swordsman. That's something even I fell into the trap of thinking, right? Earlier on this channel, I made a top 10 swordsman list, and I think I had Jon on it, and Jon would not be on it. So I think the idea that Mance beats Jon comes down to a couple factors. One, Jon was not using Longclaw, and that's the sword he trains with the most, and he's the most proficient with using. Two, you also look at the idea that Jon is not the best swordsman in the world, so he's out of his element in terms of his actual sword he uses. And two, it's an unorthodox fight as well. So I think, to me, that does not justify that he's Arthur Dayne, right? Like, there's a number of people that could beat Jon. Even Qhorin Halfhand. Jon believes Qhorin Halfhand could have easily killed him. So again, you take that with a grain of salt, in my opinion. But, you know, also other stuff we have to look at with this theory, if we're going to try and say it's correct, is we kind of have to take the normal story of what we believe with the Tower of Joy, or what's believable from the Tower of Joy. The believable story is that only two people survive from the Tower of Joy, or that fight. Howland Reed and Ned Stark. Ned Stark thinks this himself, and so you have to question, why would Ned in his own head like say that or think that? So you kind of have to go against the normal story. Now, what evidence is there to suggest that Arthur Dayne actually lived? There isn't any. We have to basically make some leaps in judgment and or logic because we don't have any evidence to back it up. Now, you can point to, okay, the Danes really like Ned, or they at least really respect Ned. Is this because they let Arthur Dayne, or he let Arthur Dayne live to go to the Wall and then to the Wildlings? Maybe. They're just like, that's my thing, is like, there's just not a lot there to me that like is like, yeah, this makes sense. I think it is perfectly natural that Ned was someone that brought back the sword of their house when he could have easily have kept it. He is someone that seems very respectful. He's someone that I think really liked Ashara, but he was not able to marry her because of Catelyn and because of his duties and other things. I think House Dayne would just have a respect for him, as well as trying to respect Ashara Dayne's reputation, because I think a lot of people were calling her some not so nice names. But again, I personally have yet to see any evidence to me that really justifies the idea of Mance being Arthur Dayne. So to me, if you guys want to put down in the chat some more evidence, I just kind of looked up kind of 2 or 3 of the major posts that I've seen about Mance Rayder and Arthur Dayne, and none of them have really won me over as in terms of actually having any substantial evidence from the book. Matthew Stewart asks, I always ask the simple one. What is Mance's endgame? Does he survive wins, or is he killed by the Boltons? I feel he dies defending the North from the others in either A Dream of Spring or in the epilogue of Winds. Okay, that's an idea I really like. I didn't consider this idea. What if instead of Stannis, you know, having him killed, or in terms of Mance, he actually says, you are going to fight with us against the others. Maybe this works out as in the time Mance comes to his sentence, what they're going to do with him, the others have broken through the wall. And Stannis says, okay, we need every man we can. Mance is a skilled fighter. He can be someone of value. His punishment is going to be giving his life to fight the others. I think that would be a really cool idea. So I wanted to, point that out. That could be a really cool idea. But I will say, Mance's endgame to me has always been the same. It's for freedom of his people and other things like that. I also want to go back to the Mance Raider Arthur Dayne thing. Another thing you also have to talk about in terms of if Arthur Dayne was Mance Raider is Mance Raider's origin seems to be known by quite a few different people. Notably, Selyse and also Corrin Halfhand. They know Mance's background. I used that in Mance's background video. And so you have to discount that. Are they lying for some reason? Why do we have a tale that it seems like the Wall knows is that he was taken from a group of raiders and was brought up by the Night's Watch? Again, there's just some things that like you have to discount the logic and the facts that we are told, or the information, maybe not the facts, but the information we're told, and put something else in there. So again, I just want to point that out. But I think his end game is to get the Wildlings integrated back into Westeros culture, but having their own freedom, not being limited by government or all these other things. Does he survive Winds, or is he killed by the Boltons? I think he will be either killed by the Boltons. I think that's a very high possibility, or he dies with the others. I like that second option as well. Kind of a similar fate to Stannis, right? Stannis, this king that never really was, and Mance, the king beyond the wall, go out fighting the others, protecting their people. That would be a really interesting way that the story could end for Winds of Winter. Crossland asks, will his supporters default over to Jon maybe after Mance has died? I think that Mance's followers, mainly the Wildlings, right, will be under someone like Tormund and Val. And because both of those characters seem to really like Jon, I think because of that, Jon will more or less become their de facto leader, more or less. So yes, I do think so. But thank you guys all for your questions and topics. We had a nice longer video. These usually don't go that long, but you guys had a lot of interest in Mance. So thank you guys all for participating. And I'll see you guys all in the next video or live stream. Bye, guys.